What if Tank Davis, who can punch, who's a hell of a fighter, who is the top 10 pound-for-pound fighter, what if he lands a punch on this bigger guy's chin, right, who's not a professional fighter? What happens?
They do it for real. Tank is highly capable of taking Jake Paul out. So the exhibitions that I like to see are ones that either I can mythically look at and say, wow.
Boxing legends are breaking down why Gervonta Davis could destroy Jake Paul within 3 rounds. Gareth A. Davis says Gervonta stayed quiet during the press conference, barely reacting to Jake's trash talk about his height. He explains that Tank looked a little hesitant, almost like he was pushed into the fight. But once the bell rings, Gareth believes Tank will explode with fast, powerful combinations that silence Jake completely.
Boxing legends break down why
Ryan Garcia didn't hide his anger about the matchup between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. He called it an insult to boxing, pointing out how unfair the size and weight difference is. To him, this isn't a real boxing match, it's a show built for views, not respect. Ryan says boxing is supposed to be about skill, legacy, and fair competition, not social media fame. Watching a smaller fighter like Gervonta face a naturally bigger man like Jake feels wrong to him. He believes this fight sends a bad message that hype and money matter more than honor and discipline. For Ryan, it's not entertainment, it's a mockery of boxing's true spirit.
Went about the presser.
He reminded me of a northern football fan being dragged to a shopping centre on a Saturday afternoon rather than being allowed to go to his favourite Liverpool seat. You'll relate to that, won't you?
Yeah.
It was almost like he'd been shackled and dragged there against his will. Even when they faced off, it was as if Jake Paul had a bad smell about him or something. He didn't want to get near Jake Paul. He didn't want to. I'm just going to plug this in as well. I just realised it's not plugged in. It was almost as if he didn't want to indulge anyone at all. Like he'd signed up against his will, and then like he'd been signed up against his will. The agents and his manager and his handler had dragged him there without briefing him on what was going on and where it would be and what time it would take place. And there was this oaf in his mind standing there in front of him, this big oaf who kept posturing, and it just didn't do anything to him. I wondered at one point whether he was going to burst out with a combination of punches or something and just drop Jake Paul, who was being, measuring him up and going down to his height, and it was all very peculiar in my view. Like he really wasn't taking it seriously.
Sean Porter sees this fight as a sign of where boxing is heading. He says today's fighters focus more on quick money than long-term greatness. In his view, Gervonta has joined that trend. Porter explains that legends used to risk everything for glory, but now many fighters chase brand deals and social media fame instead. He says Tank is one of the most talented boxers alive, but is wasting his prime on sideshows. Instead of legacy-defining fights, Porter blames not just Tank, but the whole money-driven system that's slowly killing boxing's soul.
Mainly Jake's end. We're not falling for the Disney Channel bit no more. We're not falling for you're not a fighter no more. We're not falling for that. You're ranked as a cruiserweight and you're out here trying to fight a lightweight. And then on top of it, you were just talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. That doesn't make no sense. And, I just felt like it was a disgrace to boxing and kind of it was not a good move by Jake Paul. I understand people saying, Gervonta got to go get his money, blah, blah, blah. But, we're not talking about that shit. We're talking about the sport, bro. We're not talking about, you got to get that money, bro. Yeah, but everybody's open to criticism. That's the whole point of this media shit. Right. That's why they talk about basketball players. They don't talk about, LeBron's making too much. Nobody cares, bro. If LeBron's missing the shot, he's missing the fucking shot. So at the end of the day, bro, I just thought it was a disgrace to the sport. Because on one end, you got the casuals, right? The casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Yeah. And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter. Yeah. And to me, that's just, it's tricking the public, and it's kind of bullshit, bro, at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, if Gervonta was Jake Paul's size, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. There probably wouldn't even be a fight. Yeah, you know what I mean? So I just think that it's a disgrace to boxing.
well, we got to play devil's advocate because people were saying, well, Ryan, you called out Jake Paul before too, so how would you say that? What do you have to say to the people that were saying that?
Well, I'm way bigger than Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is 5'4", and his last fight was at 133. My last fight was 147, and I walk around 170. So, I mean, 170 to 190, whatever, however big is not too much difference. But you got Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight. Nobody was complaining when Jake Paul was fighting Julio Cesar Chavez.
Right.
Nobody was complaining when he's fighting Anthony Joshua. And I still think Jake Paul's a cool dude. But shit, he's called me out on my shit. I'm gonna call him out on his shit, bro. That's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like Mike Tyson, low key was a disgrace, but we accepted it. But
yeah,
he was 60 years old. I mean,
right.
What the f are we talking about
60.
here?
That's crazy.
Many analysts say the real problem isn't just the fighters, it's the audience. Fans today prefer drama and viral moments over skill and technique. Serious fights between elite boxers often go unnoticed, while influencer matches dominate headlines. They argue that Jake Paul isn't the problem. It's the fans rewarding chaos instead of craftsmanship. When people pay for hype, real fighters lose motivation to take risks for respect. As long as fans keep buying pay-per-views for drama, entertainment will keep winning over real sport.
But why are you doing that? How do you sort of see this scenario now for him?
Yeah, I don't really know how to feel about it, what to really say about it. I've only been asked this when it's been presented to me. That's when I think about it. And I can't really come up with a good answer for it. In a lot of ways, it doesn't make sense to me. Of course, we know the size differential and the list goes on from there. I don't know, man. I think we're entering a generation now, or a phase now where fighters, I don't know if it's fighters, I don't know if he doesn't care about the legacy, or if he feels like this fight doesn't matter, I'll get back to the legacy. I just don't know. This is truly it's not a legacy fight, but of course it is a generational money fight, so.
Experts also warn about the huge size difference between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. Jake fights at cruiserweight, while Tank is a lightweight. Even if Davis is more skilled, reach, weight, and power still matter. They say it's risky to put a smaller fighter against someone much bigger. Jake can take punches from heavier opponents, while Tank must close the distance to land his shots. On paper, Jake has size. Tank has speed and skill. That's why this matchup feels unfair and controversial, a sign that boxing's rules are bending for entertainment.
Boxing has evolved to where it's at. I'll expand on that. For one, you have good fights where I'm not talking about these type of fights, crossover type of fight, former Disney guy, influencer stuff. Not. And Jake Paul has really promoted himself and acquitted himself to the point where he's kind of a boxer. Now, he hasn't fought the top names, I get it, blah, blah, blah. But he's doing his thing. He's training like a boxer. He's not like taking it lightly, like streaming and then working on his YouTube more than he's working on his boxing. It is what it is, right? But beyond that, let's keep it going. I told you I'm about to really get unpacked. Subscribe to the channel. The reality is, the reason why I'm saying I blame you, the fans, is because we've had some very good fights, like David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, whatever. I'm talking in the last 5-10 years, right? Very good fights, all boxing. So not talking influencer or any type of crossover fight, right? Good fights. And then you got boxing fans in a niche sport who didn't further the exposure by advertising or buying the fight, mostly buying the fight with piracy and whatnot. So now we're at a point in this society where these companies, they're like, all right, they see the piracy is a problem. Now they're looking for sure shot, must win type of scenarios. That's why we're getting these fights that some people, purists and diehards, are calling wonky fights. You know what I mean? It is your fault